the stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Okay, I've got to interrupt my guys. Good morning. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm U-Turn Laverne, and this is One Street Over. We are going to give it another try. We're going to try to get John Rose on the phone again this morning. So anxious to talk to him. He's a good friend, and he's going to try giving us a call here. We had a little technical problem with our phone lines. We believe that's been fixed, and just be patient with us. Remember, this company is a work in progress. We're working to get everything exactly where it needs to be, because you've got a Christian broadcast facility right here in Robertson County. You've got the Spanish side, of course, over on WDBL. And Lee Marie, if I can get you to pull that door too. We've got the Spanish side on WDBL, and right here we've got the English side on WSGI 1100. And just great potential here. If you've got something you want to share, talk to ILU about that, ILU Maldonado. And we're going to see if this is John. John, are you with us?
John Rose.
Are you with us, John?
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Are you with us, John?
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Okay, John, you with us?
Good morning.
Oh, he's working. I'm so excited, John. Oh, my goodness. God bless you. I appreciate you being patient with us. It's just crazy. How are you, sir?
I am well. How are you?
I'm excellent. It's so funny because everybody said, well, John's really anxious to get on because he wants to talk to you about his trip to Mexico. I'm going to Mexico on Friday.
That's great. On a mission trip?
Yeah, I'm going with Baja Missions. You're familiar with that because I know you've had some family members that have done the same, has worked with Baja Missions, correct? Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's been a real blessing to them, the Baja Missions project.
Yeah, but now you went to a different area. I'm going down into the Baja. What part of Mexico did you visit?
Well, I wasn't. I actually didn't step foot into Mexico.
Gotcha.
This latest trip, I was in the McAllen area, the southern tip of Texas.
Right.
And went with the delegation. Of course, President Trump was there with us, and it was really eye-opening to see. I've got a little gravelly fourth morning, but I felt like I needed to return, and obviously the chance to go and be there with the 45th president and reflect on the dramatic difference between how he handled our southern border and how the 46th president is not dealing with the illegal immigration at our southern border. I think is dramatic and I think profound for our country.
Oh, it is. And it's just, I was talking with Sheriff Michael Van Dyke the other day. We had him in here on the show, and we were talking about the problems with drug trafficking right now and what is happening with the what's happening with the porous border right now and what that means for our law enforcement and what they're trying to do to stop the flow of illegal drugs coming across the border. And it's just unrelenting and unbelievable.
It really is. The facts and the figures really back it up. Biden's open border policy has created an unmitigated disaster. It is, the vice president, the vice president want to avoid talking about it and going there. It is really a crisis at the southern border with implications not just for those communities, in Texas and along the southern border in Mexico, Arizona, and California, but across the country. And so even though we're 1,000 miles from that border, the impact, as you've learned from the Sheriff Van Dyke, is very real on our communities in terms of the human toll and financial costs, but as you pointed out, the drugs. So if you think about the amount of fentanyl that has come in so far, well, this is just the amount that's been seized. So we can only imagine what we have missed in talking to the Customs and Border Patrol officials. It is no doubt a huge number, but they've seized this year 6,494 pounds of fentanyl.
Good Lord.
And for anyone who understands fentanyl, you know that that's enough fentanyl to kill every American citizen 3 times over. 3 times over. So a huge amount of that drug. And of course, it's mostly made in China. And then sent to us courtesy of the unprotected border under President Biden, and we really do have to get it under control. And it obviously the long-term implications of this, which is exactly what the president wants, is millions of new people in the country who he hopes will vote Democratic for years to come. So he is just failing to honor his oath of office to where he's sworn to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States. So we have the press will have you believe, well, we don't have any updated current immigration laws, but we have immigration laws, as I've said before on your show, and they should be enforced. And the president has sworn an oath, and the vice president, to uphold those laws, and they're just not doing it.
And and as somebody just sitting here and hearing all this, I've told you several times, I've had to just turn the news off, because if I can't, there's nothing I can do about it right now. I'm looking at it and I can't affect it or change it. I can do the things I can do locally, but when it comes to this, there's nothing I can do. So I'm giving it to God. But from your perspective, you're a representative and you're trying to figure out what you can do. And I cannot imagine how you must feel, because you must feel like your hands are tied at the moment. Does that not just a great frustration for you?
It really is a great frustration, and it's one of those things that I've had to come to grips with the last 2.5 years as a new member of Congress, first time elected official. It's just the founding fathers, I think, developed a great system of checks and balances, and so I'm, while I want to represent views and opinions of the people of the 6th District of Tennessee and work hard every day to do that. I know there's a system, and I'm part of that system, and we're through me part of that system. But we have to continue to work hard every day. So I have to be a voice for it, and I have to work to try to make sure that those voices in the 6th District are heard. And then just trust that the rest of the my counterparts across the country will also do their job, and so we are doing things. The truth of the matter is that in the House, the majority rules, and right now we're in the minority, just by 4 seats. But we can't win those votes, and of course we have a divided Senate, and the president is of the other party, and so they made the decision, and so this is what you get when you elect. This is what you get when you elect Democrats to office. They have implemented an open border policy, and the press won't report that. Big tech and big media want to hide that from you. The president, won't talk about it, but that's what they've done. And so we proposed a series of measures that would turn this around. The truth, though, is that all that President Biden and Vice President Harris would have had to do to avoid this problem is absolutely nothing. All they had to do was keep in place the policies of President Trump, which by December had reduced the illegal apprehensions at the southern border had fallen all the way to 7,000 per month. Whereas if you look at the last 3 months, it's averaged more than 170,000, and they just announced that in June, 188,000 were apprehended in the month of June at the southern border. That's the number that that's the number of encounters that CBP had, or CBP had at the CBP had at the southern border, which was a 450% increase from last June. Over a million have already illegally crossed the border in the first 7 months of this year. These are highs for the last generation, basically, and if it continues this pace, we'll have as many as 2 million. And those are the ones we know about. Obviously, there are more. And if you talk to the Customs and Border Patrol officers, they tell you, and this is maybe to put kind of a first-hand view of what I saw there a couple 3 weeks ago at the border, and you'll find this interesting. I know it was extremely interesting to me to be there at night and see the illegals coming across and seeing their encounters, their first encounters with Customs and Border Patrol. But they're just we have an open border. They just simply the cartels bring them across the Rio Grande River there in the McAllen area in the Rio Grande sector, and they are wearing fresh, clean clothes and cleanly showered. They look cleaner than we did. We had walked, our group had walked down the border wall, which was incomplete in this area. It is in many areas because construction stopped on January 20th when the new president came in. And the cartels bring them across and let them out, and they walk up. The Border Patrol officers have set up checkpoints, essentially, and the immigrants know this, the illegals know this, and they present themselves, migrants, and they are basically checked into the country and loaded up on buses and sent to central processing facilities where they're then, ultimately transported on into the interior of the country, and many of them come to places like Tennessee, as we've seen in the reports, and so we'll have these unaccompanied minors that will ultimately all of these folks who will make their way to places in communities like yours and mine all across the country, and so if you think about the burden on our social services, on our education system, on the healthcare system, it's dramatic, and we as taxpayers, both at the federal level, through our taxes at the federal level, but also at the local level, through the support we provide for our schools and healthcare system, we're going to have to pick up tab at that, and it's really not fair, and it should do something about it. So I want to talk a little bit, and you may want to ask me other questions, but to just kind of give you the picture of what I call. It's basically midnight at night, and we are just there along the road that's near the southern border, and we come across a group of 15 or 20 immigrants, mostly women and small children, a couple of adult males in the group, probably 3 or 4 adult women, and the rest are children, including infants as young as my son Sam. So 3 or 4 adults that a mom is just carrying with her. The interesting thing that we learned from the Border Patrol folks is that when they get off the boat that the cartel delivers them, they have armbands on. So this is how organized cartels have become. Is they have armbands that are color-coded and numbered, so that the cartels can keep up with their, folks that they're trafficking into the country. And so, the important thing to note there is that our southern border is being controlled. It's just being controlled on the Mexican side by criminal cartels who are profiting to the tune of $500 million to $1 billion a month in fees that they're collecting. And then on top of that, to put the full human toll into perspective, many of these folks are being trafficked, are victims of human trafficking, and they're going to be indentured servants, and in many cases, unfortunately, some of them are going to be trafficked in the sex trade. And so it's just unimaginable what some of these folks have already suffered and what they are likely to suffer in our own country. And the Border Patrol officers make very clear that the cartels keep up with the individuals that they're trafficking in, for whom they are still owed for the price of admission to the country that the Mexican cartels are charging. And they connect with them on the other side. They find their quote-unquote product, and they seize them after they're released by the United States government. So President Biden is essentially facilitating the illegal trafficking of human slaves. I mean, that's really, and I know that's blunt accusation to make. That is what's happening. And he's turning a blind eye to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And as I'm listening to this, when I was working at the Blaze down in Texas, we went down to McAllen. It's like 7-8 years ago. And this is exactly what was going on then. It's going on continually now. It's just unbelievable that the difference when people can't see the stark differences between the administrations, I shake my head in wonder, because it's so clear, and we're dealing with so much propaganda from the mainstream media. They're telling us only what the president administration wants people to hear, and it's just so frustrating that we can't see it. There's one thing I want you to touch on, John. You mentioned the number that had been apprehended, and I want you to compare that to the number of people you serve in this district. Remind people how many people you serve, and then give that number again, just to kind of put it in perspective of how many people have been apprehended when you think about that.
Yeah, so I represent, each member of Congress represents approximately the same number. It varies a little by state because of apportionment, but I represent, based on the 2010 census, right now 713,928 people. So more than enough people to account for another member of Congress have come in. And incidentally, probably most people don't reflect on this, but under current law as put in place by the courts interpreting our Constitution, each of these people get counted ultimately in our census and become represented in the United States Congress. Because the current interpretation of the law is the census is not just a count of citizens of the country, but an account of people in the country. And so I heard the statistic, and pardon me, I don't remember it, but if you just counted legal citizens of the country in the census, and the President Trump, the 45th president, tried to make that the rule, that's what we would do, and was unsuccessful. The court stopped him. But if you did that, it would dramatically change the balance of power in the U.S. Congress. I think I heard more than 10 members of Congress from California would be lost by them and reapportioned across the country. Of course, our current laws provide 435 constitutions for 435 members of the House of Representatives. So Tennessee, no doubt, and other states that have a comparatively lesser number of illegals in the state, in our state, we would pick up dramatically in terms of seats in Congress. And so we should all keep that in mind, that the Congress, the current Constitution of Congress, the current representation of Congress includes representation of people who are here illegally.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It just puts it in perspective. When you mentioned that number, because you one of the things you have done when I've heard you speak is you mentioned the number of people you represent very often. I think that keeps you conscious of what your job is, and I appreciate that. And just knowing that number's in your mind, I thought, just in comparison to the folks that are here. But I know we've got a limited amount of time with you. We got you until 7:30 today. What else do you want to talk about, John? I'm gonna wait my commercials until the bottom of the hour so we can have have as much time with you as possible. But what else would you like to talk about? Because, I mean, we could talk endlessly about the border situation. Where else would you like to go in this conversation?
Well, good. Let me end the border conversation by just saying that, there are tangible steps we should take. So we should finish the wall and deploy technology at the border, and then the CBP officers all to a number say that would help. Obviously, we've got to have the will to enforce our laws at the border, so we should fully reinstate President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, which was very effective, that he had negotiated with the country of Mexico that anyone applying for asylum in the country will stay in Mexico. Really, they stay in their country of origin if you're going to apply for asylum, but we shouldn't let them into the country. And then third, we should maintain and robustly implement Title 42 authority. This is the authority that essentially allows the U.S. government to stop anyone who might be a hazard to the country right now in terms of the coronavirus pandemic. It's not. I don't think it's coincidental that we're seeing a surge in coronavirus in our country, the Delta variant. At the same time, we're letting thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, over a million into the country, and they're not being tested in that initial encounter. So, you have to get a test to do anything important. You have to wear a mask to get on an airplane, and we see our American citizens being harassed, and yet these folks are coming in the country and intentionally not being checked. Because it would gum up the work, so to speak, if they tested them and discovered that they have coronavirus. So we have a surge in illegal immigration. We have a surge in Delta variant coronavirus, and I think we have these both courtesy of the Democratic Party and President Biden. And then we should require a negative COVID test before releasing these immigrants into the country. And I think we then should call on President Biden to send a clear message that you can't come to the U.S. illegally.
Absolutely.
And so just wanted to wrap that up. But I think the other thing that I would really like to talk about, of course, I serve on the Financial Services Committee. Recently we had the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell in front of us again for his he comes twice a year to testify to the Congress, to the House, and to our committee. And the thing I want to talk about is inflation. And I think everyone is seeing this happen. And it's a problem. Those of us who U-turn like you and me who are old enough to remember the last time we had serious inflation in our country know how destructive inflation can be to middle class and working Americans by making everything expensive, more expensive. It's a hidden tax on working Americans, and we see really inflation starting to rear its ugly head in our country, and it's happening because of the runaway spending that we've seen in fairness, in partially as a result or in response to coronavirus, but there was a delicate balance that needed to be achieved, and what we've seen Democrats come into office and an attempt to put in place their progressive socialist agenda. They are continuing to throw money into the economy, and anyone who understands inflation knows that when everyone's got too much money, when there's too much money in the economy and not enough good services available, you're going to see inflation start to happen, and that's what we're seeing. And so you've seen the price of pump go up to levels it hadn't been at in almost a decade, and 40% year-over-year increase in energy prices. But we're seeing it at the grocery store. We're seeing it in construction costs of new homes. All up and down the line, we see inflation happening, and we simply, as a country, I don't think we can afford to let this, continue to get out of control. And so, we questioned the Fed chairman about this. Unfortunately, I think he's currently of the view that, this is this temporary. I think the word he uses is transitory, and that as soon as the economy bounces back, we're going to see this go away. What I'm worried about, and I think so many of us on the Republican side and many economists are worried about, is that we've seen the president is proposing a $6 trillion budget for this year, which is a dramatic increase, essentially about a third increase over what it or 25% increase, or no, 33% increase over what the budget was for coronavirus. This is all an attempt by Democrats to implement socialist policies. So they're essentially trying to put in place programs that will create universal basic income. They're not calling it that, but that's what they're doing. So, for example, and I know a lot of listeners probably will enjoy receiving this, but starting this month, many people, if you meet the qualifications, you're going to receive a $300 per child tax credit. Now, this is, but you're actually going to get a check in the mail. So if you haven't already gotten one of those checks and you've got a young child, who's dependent, they're going to be seeing these checks come. And of course, these are not based on any measure of need, other than, what your taxable income is. And they're not necessarily made based on your productivity or on your merit. I mean, these are just payments being made to you. While they may be very helpful to Americans, we all are hearing, and I hear this without exception from businesses and employers, that they can't find workers. And the reason is because we're paying people not to work in this country, and we've got to quit doing that. And so it's leading ultimately, the big end of this is in the short term, inflation, in the medium term, inflation, but ultimately we are mortgaging our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, mortgaging their future. Someone told me recently, you turned and said we should all be forced to write thank you notes to our great-grandchildren, thanking them for the level of the standard of living they're affording us, because we're borrowing to get their future.
Yeah, it's a very good point. It's a very good point. And I think, when people talk about anybody running for office, I think you and I had the same motives when we were stepping into the arena. It was simply because we want a better future for our children, period. And I just appreciate so much what you're doing, brother. You're doing a good job, and we appreciate you just continuing to hold up the banner. We've got just a few minutes. City Manager Ron Martin's going to be coming in here at 7:30. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the voters of the 6th District before we wrap up our time today?
Well, various issues that's very much on my heart, and you turn. I'm too old for this, but I have two young children, a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old, and a 3-month-old, Guy and Sam.
They're cute.
They're such blessings. Yeah. So I'm getting to enjoy this at a time in life when I'm able to enjoy it the way maybe I would have when I was younger. But I think about them when I see them, and I enjoy them. I think about the sanctity of life. Mm-hmm. And as you know, I'm a big believer in protecting life and just reflecting on the assault on life that's happening in this administration just chills me and just makes me so sad. And I think about this administration. Of course, the president has. Historically, he has said he didn't believe that we should force taxpayers to pay for abortions, and yet his budget proposals remove, this is a very wonky thing to talk about, but the Hyde Amendment, which has been a bipartisan amendment that's gone back decades, that says basically we're not going to force taxpayers to pay for abortions. Well, the president has reneged on that, and the Democratic Party is. And so they're putting in place everyday policies whereby essentially we will all be forced to subsidize the cost of abortions across this country. And so we have just got to stand up to protect life and ensure the belief among us, those most vulnerable, those most unable to protect themselves, get a chance at life. And so I want to assure everyone I'm doing everything I can. I prioritize every issue where I can weigh in. So I've signed on to innumerable letters, bills, and speak on the floor often about the issue of life, and and to believe very strongly in that. And so I'll just tell you, I'll continue to work hard to try to do that. I very much appreciate the opportunity to represent the 713,928 people of the 6th District of Tennessee. And thank you to all of you for giving me this great honor and privilege to work for you every day. And I hope if anyone has thoughts they want to share, feel free to reach out. And thank you to 1100 WSGI and you turn for the chance to be on the show today.
Always. And thank you for your patience in us making it happen. And we'll look forward to talking to you next month, sir. God bless you.
Thank you.
And say hello to Chelsea for me.
I'll do that. Thank you, Turn, and thank you again.
God bless you. Thank you. And that was Representative John Rose, Congressman John Rose, joining us via phone, and just really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to him today. And thank you guys for sticking with us and making sure we could have that conversation, because he is doing a good job representing us and in Washington. Now, we are going to real quickly take a break and talk about my friends Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. They are a great team. Now, they are also going to be, I can't mention them without mentioning the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival, because it is coming up August 27th and 28th. I am honored to be the host once again, and looking forward to seeing them there. But guys, don't wait until the festival to see them. If you're doing anything in regards to real estate, you need to definitely reach out to them, because you need to make sure you got a team that's going to help you either on the buying side or the selling side. If you're on the selling side and you want to be competitive and you want to make sure that you're getting the top dollar, that people are seeing your property, and that you're in a position to get into those bidding wars, people having to compete over your property with not just what you want for it and what it appraises for, but what else they can bring to the table. That's happening across the board. And if you want to make sure that your property is in that kind of a situation, you got to make sure people know about it. And that's where Barry comes into the picture, because he's a marketer. He came out of a marketing background and went full time with real estate a few years ago. And he is the whole package. He's a Zillow certified photographer. So that gets you up on Realtor.com. Licensed and insured drone pilot, does those walkthrough tours, and can make sure that he has the drone footage that you can get and make sure people see everything from above. But he is the whole package when it comes to marketing. And then his wife, Rebecca, she's been at this a long time, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. So she's going to make sure all the legalese is taken care of when it comes to buying and selling your properties. Guys, they specialize in Robertson County, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line up in Kentucky. If you want to connect with them, again, don't wait until the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival. Connect with them at sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or you can connect with them at robertsoncounty.com. When you get in touch with them, please always tell them you turned Cinchen. We'll be back right after we hear from our friends at Hancock Family Farms.
Looking for farm fresh produce this season? Come see us at Hancock Family Farm Market on Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We are located at 7114 Highway 49 East, only 6 miles from downtown Springfield. We have a wide variety of produce, from strawberries and flowers to corn, peaches and tomatoes, along with milk, eggs, cheese, meat, and honey. Hancock Family Farm, family operated since 1911. Let our family feed your family.
Getting back into the show, my friend Ron Martin is in the house, and I didn't even have to call and remind you. I thought this morning, well, I'm sure glad he and I have had the conversation that this is his day, and I don't even have to call and remind you. I'm getting ready to go on a mission trip to Mexico on Friday, and I'm just like, wow. It's just all the details, trying to get everything done, and but it's going to be awesome. But I just apologize to everybody who's had to deal with me in the last couple of weeks. I've been distracted. I've had a lot going on. But
that's a big deal.
Thank you for knowing to come in here without me having to call and remind you.
Sure.
So you guys have got? You haven't had your State of the City yet, or was that last week?
It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you nervous?
Oh, no. It's exciting. Mayor Schneider's going to handle the bulk of that, and we're going to provide an update. This is something that a lot of our residents have been wanting to see for quite some time and wanting to hear, especially considering the amount of growth that Springfield's going through and kind of the way things are changing. And so what our pitch is that, yes, they're changing, but we're retaining that identity. And I think that's one of the most successful things about the growth story of Springfield is how we can grow and yet retain that small town feel, and that historic identity downtown. So yes, the State of the City is tomorrow. That was on my list to mention. So thank you for bringing that up. That's jointly hosted by the Kiwanis Club of Springfield and the Springfield Rotary Club. So we're grateful to them, excuse me, for the civic clubs getting involved. that's their mission. That's part of their mission is to support what's going on in Springfield, and so they figure that that informing the residents of what's going on and letting them know what's kind of where we've been, and that's kind of how we're going to break up the state of the city. Not to give anything away, is we're going to talk about who we are, where we've been, and where we're going, and letting people know that we've seen so much request for new residential growth, and we're up to about now of proposed units, about 4,000 that haven't been built yet. 4,000 units in the
that
city
have been
of Springfield
approved.
that have not been either approved or proposed.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
that's what has come in the door. That's what I call it. That's what's come in the door. People have come in the door and said, we want to do this. And so some of those have been approved and are waiting to be built. Some of them, building permits have been issued. And so it's just, it's an exciting time. It's a really good time to be where we are. And we're trying to do everything we can. And that's part of what our meeting consisted of last night, is to make sure we protect that. So we want the growth, but we want it in a smart way. Growth in itself is not bad. Growth is coming. There's no way to fight that. If anybody's been in Middle Tennessee, you can talk to those south of Nashville, and they can tell you how well that fighting the growth will work, because it doesn't. What we want to do is put those measures into place that protect the quality of life here in Springfield. So we did a few of those things last night at our board meeting. We've been working on some things, tidying up some things that we haven't really faced before. And we're making some progress, and so that puts some real protective measures in to make sure that our quality of growth stays at a standard that everybody around here wants it.
Very good, very good. And I'm not gonna distract you too much from the things you need to cover, because we got to do all of our breaks in this half hour, because we pushed them to get our congressman on the air and talk to him. So I just want to kind of get right to the things you covered in the meeting last night that you've got to get covered this morning. So go for it. What have you got there?
So first thing I want to mention is Freedom Fest. For those that came out to Freedom Fest, we had a huge 4th of July event, had over 7,000 people there, and it was a big, really, really nice, family-friendly community event with Ricky Skaggs headlining, a lot of great music, great entertainment. Grace Baptist sponsored the entertainment and the stage. So thankful to Grace Baptist, Vulcan Materials, and a lot of people that were involved in making that happen. But Freedom Fest was a great thing, so I wanted to mention that. Here's one of the most impactful things that the board of mayor and aldermen had to decide last night, and it's something that was passed on first reading. The United States Postal Service, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the United States Postal Service changed a regulation last year, I believe, early last year, and it didn't make a lot of waves because of COVID, because of the pandemic, but they changed a regulation where for new residential development, they will no longer serve individual mailboxes.
What?
No more. They're requiring the cluster mailbox system, or what they call centralized delivery point.
Really?
So at the beginning of a subdivision, now there will be a cluster mailbox system where residents in that entire subdivision will retrieve their mail.
Wow.
And they're requiring developers to install that. And we're seeing it in some of the new developments in Springfield. So the Postal Service has the authority that they get to control how they, that's their ball game. Why it matters to us and why it's going to affect residents other than their mail delivery is because guess who uses mailbox numbers to find residences? Our police, our fire, our utility, exactly, our utility personnel if there's a gas leak or something like that. So in doing some research, figure out, okay, how do we make sure that we can still save people's lives when they need to be saved?
Right.
We adopted an ordinance, or on first reading last night, it'll go through 3 readings, that would just require a small sign to sit in the front of someone's yard with reflective numbering. And so that way our public safety personnel can identify the residences when they go down the street. So it's a small sign. We went to Dixon. Dixon's way ahead of this. And so we went to Dixon, sent some people down there. Those signs, I think, down there cost $4. So for $4, residences can get these signs and put them in their yard, and they just have their reflective house number on it. That way at nighttime, because some people say, well, what if they just put numbers on their house? Well, some of these residences sit too far off the road, and so it might still, you're talking about a delayed response time, and that's what we're trying to do. The old catchphrase when you're talking about public safety personnel is, when seconds count, they're always minutes away. So what we want to do is make sure we can find people and provide the service that they're looking for when they're looking for it, and not delay that response. So that's a big deal. That's affecting a lot of people. Aren't familiar with that. Now developers are.
I had no idea. Yeah.
Developers are familiar with it because it affects them. These people that are developing new subdivisions are having to to put these cluster mailboxes in. And so it's something that we adopted last night. So that's something that's impactful that people need to know about. One of the other things that we adopted last night on first reading is the institution of a tax on the occupancy of hotel motels in Springfield. It's proposed to be a 4% tax. Now, no one likes to raise taxes, and so I want to be clear about why this is something that is to be done. So we worked with Dr. Kumar and Senator Roberts last year in the legislature. We were going to get a private act. That's how cities formerly did this. And you say, so why do a tax on hotel motels? Because in order to promote Springfield, economic development, tourism development, all those type of things, instead of taxing our residents, we can instead let the burden be borne by that on those who are coming in from the outside.
Right.
So it shifts the burden on our economic growth and marketing to those that are coming in here and not those that live here. Mm-hmm. So that's the purpose of that is to get that burden off of our local taxpayers. And so that passed on first reading last night. We also had another residential development that was rezoned last night, or a property that was rezoned to include 235 units. It's going to be a mixed-use commercial and residential development on R.A. Benton Lane, which is on right off of South Main Street before you come out onto Tom Austin. So that's going to be a decent-sized development. We just approved on final approval last month, the 568 unit on Dr. Kumar's former property. So a lot of residential development. That one was an annexation last month that was requested. It's the only way we can annex now, and I think people have asked about it. Well, are the cities just going to run out and take all the property? Well, that's not allowed. We can only annex really by request only, by property owner's request. So that's what's going on there. We also do have a new hotel that's proposed. I think I mentioned this last month that it was coming, but we approved the rezoning for that property. It's going to be north of town. So Highway 41 North, which the idea behind that one, hopefully, is that it will help serve the North Industrial Park, as well as the airport is out that way. So we're hopeful and optimistic for that. So those were the highlights kind of the meeting last night. There's a few other things going on, but if you had anything, did you have something that you wanted to discuss?
Not specifically. No. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't know how big as I have sit across from Dr. Causey and across from our county mayor, Billy Vogel, I have found that actually the agendas in these meetings have been rather short, but because of it's July, a lot of people are traveling and things like that. So I didn't know how much time your meeting covered last night. I thought with the state of the city coming up, it might be a little bit longer meeting. So I want to make sure you had plenty of time to unpack everything you had. So that was the thing, because we had given so much time to John. And I'll tell you what, this is probably a good place for us just to reset. Let me go ahead and do one of my breaks. Okay. But no, I just wanted to make sure we got everything out. My husband fusses at me all the time. Laverne, you spend too much time chit-chatting and you don't get to the agenda. So I just want to make sure we got the business out of the way, and then we can talk about the other things that are on our minds possibly. But if you have any questions for Ryan, you can put them up in the comments on my Facebook page. That's the one that I monitor, is the one that I keep my eyes on. So if you do have any questions for Ryan, be sure and throw those up. And two, also kind of be thinking about can people still and you can answer this on the other side of the break. Can people still come to the meeting tomorrow? Because I know you had to put in reservations and get tickets and such as that. So we'll address that here in just a moment. But for just a moment, we want to talk about Corbin Creek Greenhouse, Gifts Nursery, and Gardening Center. I got to get by there. I'm down to my last bottle of CBD. I think I've got enough to get me through Mexico. I may get by there before I head out on Friday morning, but it's just one of those things that's helped me so much with my inflammation, with my arthritis. And I'm so keyed up right now, getting ready to leave on this mission trip. I'm having a hard time sleeping at night, and man, oh man, that stuff really helps you sleep at night. And it's really kind of funny to me. I can take it in the morning. It doesn't make me sleepy, but at night it will help me sleep better. It has been just such a game changer for my inflammation. It was recommended to me by my doctor, Dr. Jeffrey Hodrick, Southern Joint Replacement up in Nashville. When he did, I've had both hips replaced because I have already as a part of my life arthritis. And if you know what, if that's your case, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And he said I really needed to check into CBD, and I was stunned because I didn't think it was a real thing. I really didn't. But if you're like me and you were skeptical and you're thinking, well, maybe I need to try it, go to the source, and that's what you get at Corbin Creek. Bill grows the plants. That's what's processed into the oils that they sell there. It's Robertson County CBD. So go and check it out. It may be a game changer for you. A lot of my friends have been using it, and they're saying the same thing. And anything you need for your yard, for your porch, they've got the vegetable garden coming in now. Call Amy and say, hey, you got any corn ready? You got any green beans? And she'll let you know. And, of course, anything beautiful for your yard and your porch or your home, beautiful plant. If you need a special gift for somebody, go by Corbin Creek, and you're going to find something beautiful to take to your friends. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5, Sunday from 1 to 5. You can call them at 615-384-3185. 615-384-3185, located at 4920 Highway 161. And they are always at the farmers market. When you get by there, please tell them that U-Turn sent you, and thank them for being one of our sponsors here at One Street Over. And so, answer to the question that I asked you right before I talked about Corbin Creek, can people still come to the meeting tomorrow, or is that a cutoff?
Absolutely. So our caterer extended the deadline until today. So people can register until today. We have just a few spots left. There's been an overwhelming response. There really, really has. And so we're excited about that. It's going to be at the center tomorrow at 11:30, from 11:30 to 1. So there'll be lunch and then a program with questions. People can submit questions online. They've done so. So we're going to try to. We're getting to the point where we want to answer people's questions. We want to tell them what they want to know. And I want to cover something here in a minute that I think is important. It's been coming up a lot recently. But the questions are more important than anything else we have to say. So if people submit questions, that's what we want to place a priority on answering. Okay,
very good. And it's one for somebody like me who commutes. There's no way I can be here tomorrow. I can't adjust my schedule to be here tomorrow. But I would like to hear it. Is it going to be streamed?
It will be. Okay. So it'll be recorded, and we will air that. Okay. We will post that online because we recognize that. Right. I mean, it's one of those things where for people that maybe people don't have a lunch hour, maybe they work a shift, or maybe they commute, like you said, and so there's no way that people can attend that. So we want to make that available to them. We don't want to have something that's not available to other folks.
Well, very good. And because that's something I really want to hear it because there's so much. Even though I live in the county, I'm right on the edge of the city. So everything that affects Springfield City affects me. Ultimately. And so I'm very, very curious about, anything that's going on there. Now, you said that there's something specific you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, one of the things we've getting the question a lot recently about, well, why do we spend money on new playgrounds if our sewer rates are so high? Why don't we take some of that money and pay on the sewer debt and our sewer rates won't be so high? And we're going to hit this tomorrow too. And so this is something maybe for you, because you may get that question from time to time. Utilities by state law have to be self-sustaining entities. We're not allowed to take sales tax money or property tax money or any other revenue and put that towards the sewer, infrastructure or the sewer. So that's why, and of course, the playground was funded primarily off of a grant from the state. So it wasn't all taxpayer money that went to that, or all local taxpayer money. But I think that's an important distinction to make for folks that don't understand that utilities have to be self-sustaining. So our wastewater utility, that sewer utility has to sustain on its own. And so that's the rates that are coming in versus the money that it costs to maintain the system. And so that's why our sewer rates are so high. We know that we're paying for a lot of years of repair that wasn't done. And so that's what we're going to pay for. We're going to be paying for it for quite some time. And so I hope in my career that we're able to bring our sewer rates down. I hope that we can get to that point. The truth of the matter is that for the time being, we're paying for years of disrepair right now. All of us current ratepayers are paying for that. But that's unaffected by buying a fire truck, or the money that goes to the police department, or the money that funds the fire department, or the money that funds our parks. That's entirely separate. Those are two different buckets of funds, and we're not allowed by state law to commingle those funds.
And you've got big improvements getting ready to happen at your sewer plant. I'm next door to it and talk to them all the time. Great folks out there, just been a great neighbor to us, and they keep me very apprised as to what's going on. And so there's big things coming. And because that's where are we on that? Have y'all accepted a plan on that yet?
Not yet. So there's a preliminary. I just talked to the engineering firm last night, and after the meeting, and so we're going to be meeting in August to talk about a preliminary design of the new plant, because with all the growth we have, we need to be able to accommodate other things. Our plant is old. Our plant's 37 years old. The life expectancy of a wastewater treatment plant is 35 to 40 years. So we're right there on that cusp. Occasionally, you can make some tweaks and get 50 years out. We looked at that. It was going to cost us about $15 million to try to get an extra 15 years out of the plant, or might cost 25 to 35 to build another one that'll last hopefully 40 to 50 years. So it was a no-brainer. We're not going to waste people's, our ratepayers and our customers' money on trying to patch up something that really doesn't need to be patched up. And so it's the wise decision to design and engineer a new plant, and that's the stage we're in now.
As somebody that lives next door to it, when do you expect that plan will be accepted, done, and completed? I mean, what is your projection on a new plant being up and
2025.
2025, they think it'll be up and running. Oh wow, that's quick.
2025.
That's quick.
And because it's 2021 now, and usually the build out's going to take a little over 24 months. So by the time we get through the design and engineering phase, which is a year or better, we're looking at probably early 2025 to have that plant up and running.
Very good. Very good. And I mean, all of us who live in the neighborhood are excited about that because we know it's time. And as you've said, it's going to be friendly to the neighbors, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're try to be very friendly out there. I think as processes increase, technology gets better and processes develop, the impact on the environment around the wastewater treatment plant becomes less and less and less and less and less. And you've said before that you don't really have any issues out of them. And so I think that's one of those things is a new plant upgrade. It might be a better system altogether for everyone.
Exactly. So anybody that's wanting to come down there and move down there, I assure you, it's just fine. It's just fine. Billy was asking me yesterday. He says, "Doesn't it smell?" I said, occasionally you get a little sour smell off of it, but I grew up on a hog farm. I'm a farm girl, and so that's if you want to live out in agricultural areas, guys, you're going to have some things.
That's right.
But they've been a very good neighbor, and so we're excited though about the improvements coming up. What else do you have to cover? Why have I've got to still do a couple of ads. Or no, I've got one more to do. I've just got the Rosselman ad to do. So is there other specific things that you think we need to cover that you got on your mind?
One other thing that I wanted to mention that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen did last night is passed a resolution, because this affects everybody here, Springfield and Robertson County. We passed a resolution similar to the one the county passed at the request of Dr. Kumar, Representative Kumar, to urge the state to fund the expansion of Highway 431 from the county line to I-24 to Jolton. Right now, I mean, it's beautiful out there, what's happened on Tom Austin Highway, and then as you continue on in the county, almost to the county line, but then it ends and it funnels back to 2 lanes and winds all the way to the interstate. So it doesn't really accomplish the ultimate purpose of making the commute quicker and easier for those of our residents who have to commute. And that's an economic driver for Springfield and Robertson County. So there's a tremendous economic benefit to having that road expanded. Dr. Kumar, we appreciate his efforts. He's working at the state level with TDOT and at the legislature to try to get some funding for the expansion. Even though that's Davidson County, it directly impacts what's going on in Springfield and Robertson County. So our Board of Mayor and Aldermen passed a resolution last night to support those efforts and urge the state to fund that completion. So we get that question a lot too. When's 431 going to be expanded to the interstate? Want people to know that we are pushing as hard as we can. There's not a time when I'm in the room with folks from the GNRC or TDOT or anywhere that we don't bring that up about the expansion of 431.
Do you have any kind of a feel for the success of that? Yeah, I know. I mean, I worked with traffic and all that. I worked with TDOT for a long time, and I get it. And it is a cumbersome process, and it is a long process. I mean, how long have we been waiting for a bypass around Nashville, y'all? I'm just saying. 840. It was supposed to go all the way around the city. Didn't happen. So it can be very frustrating. So from a practical standpoint, do you have any hopes?
I think that there's much more momentum there now because the other part is finished. Okay,
gotcha.
so we have the expansion finally completed from
if you build it, they'll
Boulevard.
come.
Yeah, from Memorial Boulevard to the county line. So hopefully we can just and the real issue is it's just not on the Davidson County radar.
Yeah.
They have other transportation and traffic issues that they have to be concerned about. So it's just not on their radar. So we're trying to get that on their radar and help them understand that it is important after all. So.
Yeah. What kind of money are we talking about? Do y'all have a figure? I don't know.
I haven't heard a dollar figure.
Yeah.
I know that it'll require a complete redesign, so it's going to be a very, very expensive venture. But you don't have a transportation project now that's not expensive.
Well, I got to tell you, commuters, Highway 41 is beautiful. You do hit some areas where you got to slow down, but so what? It's a beautiful drive. That's my commute, and it works. It works. So there is an alternate for you newbies that think that's the only way you can get to Nashville. 41 takes you all the way up to Interstate 65, and you can hop on there. So there are many ways to get to Nashville that are safe and beautiful drives. So there's lots of options. We've just got a beautiful place here. It's just so neat. But if you got to commute, there are ways to do it and do it safely. Let me go ahead and talk about Ricleman Buick GMC. I was listening and talking to John, our Congressman John Rose, just about the economy and inflation and different things. And all you got to do is walk into a store and try to find something that you're used to seeing and seeing a section of the shelves empty. Well, or you walk onto a car lot and you're like, where are all the new cars? What's going on with this? I don't know when that's going to change to where we're going to have the supply that we're accustomed to having post-COVID. I'm talking to Todd Ricleman. He's not sure when that's going to change, whenever they're going to have access to the inventory they had before COVID. And he said because of what has happened, it's kind of changed the way that they feel like they have to do business. They don't see that they have to have millions of dollars of inventory. And people who have never thought about ordering their vehicle, that like to trade on, there's some people that trade every couple of 2-3 years with absolute certainty. They know they're going to trade. And those folks, rather than waiting until that moment when they're like, oh, it's time for a new vehicle, they're anticipating that, and now they're ordering it, and they never considered that in the past. And what they're finding, I get exactly what I want now. And so he said that's a trend that he sees kind of hanging on for a while. Well, with that said, Ricleman is the place for GMC and Buick. And good news there, GMC and Buick, being they make trucks, SUV, and sports utilities, those are still in higher production because those are in higher demand. So you can go in and you can get exactly what you want, but just order it. When it gets here, it's yours. That's the way they're doing it with the new vehicles. And when it comes to the pre-owned lot, they're looking for pre-owned. Todd said that if you've got a pre-owned vehicle in your driveway and you're thinking that, hey, maybe I would like to get something to, get something different, or I want to sell something. He says, rather than do it on Marketplace, he said, call me. He goes, I may be able to buy it from you. They're looking for vehicles that they can certify pre-owned, that can go through those multi-point inspections and be, have a little extra warranty to go with them before they sell them to you. And they are also looking for ones that still have factory warranty left on them. This is a dealership's full service dealership. They have the service department to back up those warranties, and they have service hours every single day that they're open. The dealership is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. until 7:30 p.m., Saturday from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. And again, they have service hours every day, but they vary depending on the day. You can call and talk to them, 615-384-3559, 615-384-3559. My friends, Todd and Courtney Ricleman at Ricleman Buick GMC. Get by there today and be sure and thank them for sponsoring our little thing we call One Street Over. Tell them U-Turn sent you. Okay, Ryan, where else do we need to go here? We got a few minutes left.
Well, I want to give a shout out to, I think it's important to give a shout out to our Dixie Youth 9, 10, and 11, 12 All-Star teams. They both made it from Springfield to the state tournament.
Fun.
And and so they represented Springfield very well. I think the 11 and 12s finished fourth, I believe, in the state tournament in Savannah. The state tournament for the 9, 10-year-olds was actually in Greenbrier. So that was a short trip for the Springfield folks to commute and watch that game. And they finished last night. I believe they finished third in that tournament. And so they represented us to make it out of district. I mean, both of those teams won district, and to make it to the state tournament is just a huge accomplishment. Those young men were just they're great. I spent some time in Greenbrier watching. My nephew was actually on the 9-10 team, and so spent some time over the weekend out there. And so we just appreciate them. And so if you see any of those boys that played in that tournament, give them a high five and give them a congratulations, because they worked really hard and represented us very well.
Very cool. Love it. Congratulations. That's awesome. And tomorrow is the State of the City. You'll see Ryan there. And, of course, our Mayor Ann Schneider will be there as well. And talking about everything that's going on that pertains to Springfield. And you can still get tickets, and how can they do that?
They can do it on our website, springfieldtn.gov. You'll see the link to State of the City. There's also some stuff on our Facebook page about it with a direct link there as well.
Awesome. Well, we got it done. I mean, we still got a couple of minutes here. Anything else you want to say?
Well, I'll give some dates for people to remember, because First Friday Night Market has been a wild success. That's a partnership with the Historic Springfield Event Coordinators in the city of Springfield. The band coming up on August 6th, so that's first Friday of August, is Hotlanta. That's an Allman Brothers tribute band.
Oh,
so,
fun.
so for those of you that like the Allman Brothers, that's going to be a fun band to have in Springfield. The first time we've had them, and so we're excited about that. That's coming up on August the 6th. Bransford Day is back this year on Saturday, August the 7th. They'll have a parade and a whole lot of other festivities, including a ribs and chicken contest, which I'm particularly excited about. But also, there are some people that have been around here a long time that will remember in 1985, the movie that was filmed around the courthouse square.
I'm excited about this.
The Last Days of Frank and Jesse James. And they dumped the dirt around the courthouse and had the old, just the newspaper. We were looking through newspaper articles the other day, and it's just incredible to see that. There is going to be an event that commemorates that, and I guess you know, because you were excited as soon as I started talking about it, on Saturday, August 14th, and they'll be having reenactments. This is done by the Robertson County Historical Society. They're going to have vendors and a lot of things going on in the square. They're not dumping the dirt. I had to tell the board last night, they're not dumping the dirt, so we don't have to worry about that. But they will have horses and reenactments. So that was a really cool event. There were a lot of popular folks in that movie: Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Johnny Cash. So there's just a lot of things. I mean, Laverne, there's just so many things going on in Springfield every weekend. I mean, you look at that calendar, and every weekend there's something going on.
I know, and they're going to play that movie too. It's what Danny actually told me. I guess at nightfall, and I'm excited to see that because you can't get a copy of it. I mean, I've tried to buy it online and I can't find it, so I'm excited to see that. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great. I've got to make it to that. I'm going to try my best to make my schedule accommodate that. But thank you very much, Ron. Appreciate you coming in. Our city manager, Ron Martin, his door is always open, very easily accessible. All of our officials are. I've never had any trouble getting a hold of you guys, and I know that's the same for everybody. So thank you. God bless you. And that wraps us up for One Street Over. But now Lee Marie and Pat Samler are coming in here because they've got the Go Show that's coming up, and so we're going to get set for that. We're going to take a quick little break, and we'll be right back with Lee Marie and Pat right after this. But this is 1100 WSGI.